Good morning, team. It's Miss E here. Today is Thursday, May 21st, and we have 5 days left of school. So we have today, tomorrow, and 3 days next week. Today, we're actually going to go through some cumulative review, and then you'll be able to practice. If you haven't completed your Hello Morning survey, please pause the video and go take care of that now. Thanks, team. So today we're going to look at some cumulative practice. So cumulative basically means we're going to look at all of the stuff that we covered in 8th grade. So you'll be able to solve cumulative review questions using your problem-solving strategies. So Unit 1, we learned that all matter is made up of atoms, which are the building blocks of life. Atoms are composed of a tightly packed nucleus, which is here, with positively charged neutrons and positively charged protons and neutrally charged neutrons, and an electron cloud, which is the large space outside of the nucleus where the negatively charged electrons are. The number of protons identifies an element, and the valence electrons, which are the electrons in the very most outer shell, determine an element's reactivity or how it will interact with other elements. We also learned about the periodic table. So the periodic table is an organization chart for all of the elements, okay? Elements with similar chemical properties, that means that they react similarly in reactions, are grouped together. Rows across are called periods, and columns up and down are families. Elements in the same family have the same number of valence electrons and therefore similar reactivity. Remember, our metals are on the left side, nonmetals are on the right, and here we have our staircase. These are metalloids, okay? In Unit 2, we learned about chemical formulas and reactions. A chemical formula is the recipe of a substance that shows each element the substance contains, as well as how many atoms and how many molecules. So here we have salt. Salt has just one atom of sodium, one atom of chlorine. The NaCl is its chemical formula. A chemical equation describes the chemical formula. This should say chemical formula, showing all of the chemical formulas that form to create the substance in a reaction. Reactants are on the left side, products are on the right. So here we have water, 2H2 plus O2. Remember, our arrow means that something is happening on this side, makes 2 molecules of water. So here's our reactants, here's our products. The law of conservation of mass states that the mass is maintained or it stays the same. So everything over here is going to be over here, just rearranged to form new compounds. Remember, we did our experiments. Unit 3, force and motion. A force is a push or a pull. Okay, balanced forces occur when the net force, which is the sum of all forces acting on an object, equal 0. And an object is either at rest or moving at a constant speed. So remember, we have a book just sitting on a table, okay? If it's just sitting there, all of the forces acting on it are equal or they're balanced. If I come along and push it, that applies an unbalanced force to the book, and that creates a change in motion. Newton's laws describe the way that objects move. So the first law, the law of inertia, states that an object in motion will remain in motion and an object at rest will remain at rest until acted on by an unbalanced force. So here we have a box. It's just going to sit there until someone applies a force, a push to it. Newton's second law is the law of acceleration and explains that the acceleration of an object depends on the force applied and its mass. So here we have a force being applied to this car. Depending on the amount of force applied, the acceleration will either be more if you have more force or less if you have less force. Also, the mass makes a big difference. So think about a soccer ball and a bowling ball, okay? In order to make those two balls move, I would have to apply more force to the bowling ball because it has more mass. The third law states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So here we have these two people pushing against each other. So the action and reaction is going to be happening here in their hands. In Unit 4, we looked at global weather patterns. So we learned that weather is influenced by heat from the sun, air pressure or front, winds, and moisture. Fronts and areas of pressure are used to show weather patterns on a weather map. Uneven distribution of sun on the earth creates convection currents. In a convection current, temperature differences cause liquids and gases to expand and move, where the less dense areas rise and are replaced by more dense areas in a cyclical pattern. Okay, so the warm rises, the cool sinks, and this creates this cyclical pattern. Okay, this fuels wind and is also important in the formation of hurricanes. We also learned that the ocean regulates heat on the earth. In Unit 5, we looked at forces that change the earth. So we learned that Earth's outermost layer, or lithosphere, is divided into these large slabs called tectonic plates. These plates float on Earth's mantle and are fueled by those same convection currents that we learned about in wind. Where the plate boundaries meet, or where the plates meet, which is called the plate boundaries, crustal features or landforms are created. At convergent boundaries, which we can see here, the plates come together. They can either form mountains or they can form volcanoes. You actually can also have some earthquakes along these boundaries because of all the pressure. At divergent boundaries, the plates spread apart. So here we can see the plates spreading apart. This creates underwater ridges and land, it creates rift valleys. Remember, this is where we have sea floor spreading. So magma is going to come up and cool and create those really awesome ridges or underwater volcanoes. At transform boundaries, the plates slide past each other, creating tension and earthquakes. We also learned about topographic maps, which are tools that show the shape and elevation of landforms. Satellite images are taken by satellites orbiting the Earth and are used to monitor weather, erosion and weathering, and to study land formations. In Unit 6, we learned about the Sun, Earth, and Moon. So we learned that the relationship of the Sun, Earth, and Moon impacts our daily lives. The rotation of Earth on its axis results in day and night, while its tilt, remember it's tilted 23.5 degrees, and revolution results in seasons. Remember here, the uneven distribution of heat from the sun creates these seasonal patterns where when the earth is tilted away from the sun, one hemisphere is going to get more sun, more direct sunlight than the other. The moon's orbit around the Earth occurs in a pattern, creating a lunar cycle that repeats every 29 days. That's how we have our months. Waxing is where the light is growing on the right. So here we have waxing, the light is growing on the right. And waning is where the light is increasing on the left, decreasing on the left. In Unit 7, we learned about components of the universe. So we learned that the universe contains everything in existence and is composed of billions of galaxies, which contain billions of stars. The Earth is located in the Milky Way galaxy and orbits the Sun, which is a medium-sized yellow main sequence star nearest to Earth. Stars are classified using a Hertzsprung-Russell or HR diagram, which is pictured here, according to their luminosity or brightness. So you have the brightest stars at the top, the dimmest stars at the bottom, and temperature, where you have the hottest stars on the left and the coolest stars on the right. The life cycle of a star depends on its mass. Finally, in Unit 8, we learned about interdependence among living systems. So we learned that organisms in an ecosystem depend on and compete for living or biotic and non-living resources. So examples of biotic factors are food, okay? Abiotic factors are like sunlight and water. Organisms respond to short and long-term changes in their environments. So adaptations result from these changes and are passed down as traits to subsequent generations. We also learned that humans depend on the oceans for many resources, but our activities, including pollution, overfishing, and introduction of native species, have had detrimental impacts. That's going to conclude our review. Keep in mind that this is a very broad overview, so there's not a lot of details contained in this review because I just want to remind us of the main ideas of each of these units. When I say go, you're going to play the awakening game. There are about 12 questions. They pertain to all of the things that we covered except for things in Unit 8, okay? You're going to test your cumulative knowledge of 8th grade science. When you're done, you're going to turn it in Google Classroom, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, team. If you have any questions, please email me or send me a text. Bye, team.